It was another explosive week of hearings for the Madlanga Commission. Alleged cartel member Vusimuzi Cat Matlala's appearance was postponed. IDAC head Advocate Madlanga Johnson was a no-show as she was rushed to hospital. But the grilling of one of IDAC's senior investigators would reveal shocking alleged abuse of power that would lead to the victimization of a woman, Brigadier Dineo Mukwele, being exposed before the probe. I'm Carrim Mapanga, and let's connect the dots on this Madlanga Wrap.
The developments that are transpiring at IDAC are concerned to the President, and should the President reach a point where he activates some form of due process, we will communicate that at an appropriate time.
We received two different whistleblower reports, both confirming that Mr. Carrim and an entourage had been seen yesterday going out for lunch at a shopping centre in the Western Cape.
In that particular meeting, Commissioner, he was away because I told him General Khumalo is going to be arrested. He was away also that other generals were going to be arrested too as well. And his response to me was, they must face their own situations.
Nobody listened to those 13 clippings when they were provided, and because if they did, they would have made the determination at that time already that they require full clippings in order to prepare a statement.
What transpired or what was admitted in that statement, number one. But number two, I want to see, and I feel very strongly about it, what transpired during these plea negotiations.
All right, let's begin here. The highly anticipated appearance of a central figure in the allegations that gave birth to the Madlanga Commission was postponed to September. This as Vusimuzi Cat Matlala's legal team invoked his Section 35 rights ahead of his attempted murder trial and following those failed plea negotiations with IDAC.
For instance, if there is, let's say, a Section 205, Section 204 affidavit opposed to, I want to see that, because I want to see in that what transpired or what was admitted in that statement, number one. But number two, I want to see, and I feel very strongly about it, what transpired during these plea negotiations.
Now, IDAC head Advocate Madlanga Johnson was also scheduled to appear before the probe this week, but this was pushed back after she was rushed to hospital ahead of her appearance. Advocate Johnson's appearance is an interesting one for two main reasons. Allegations from her past, which could be linked to conduct that allegedly happened at IDAC under her watch. Johnson faces allegations of improper conduct during her then role as a senior public prosecutor, where it is alleged that she furnished Major General Faraz Khan with the contents of a criminal complaint made against him. Fast forward to her role as IDAC head. Under her watch, this unit would pursue a criminal case against Lieutenant General Dumsani Khumalo, the crime intelligence boss, and others over the appointment of Brigadier Dineo Mukwele. There is, however, a common denominator in both these matters, and that is crime intelligence official Major General Faraz Khan. This detail, which places Khan at the center of Johnson's alleged conduct then and the alleged conduct of IDAC under her watch now, will become important as we continue to connect the dots on IDAC. Find out why after the break. Thank you for staying with us. Now, Advocate Johnson's absence did not stop the show from going on. The probe would hear from Brian Padeyachi, a senior investigator at IDAC who is leading the investigation into the appointment of Brigadier Dineo Mukwele, a case which is alleged to be abuse of power and part of the alleged fight back. Padeyachi would try to limit his role to that of an investigator, but a simple slip in his investigation revealed that the real alleged issue here was the fact that Major General Khan was not included in the panel.
The impression you have created with specifying him is that this may well have been about his exclusion. You were punting for him. Taking issue in 12.5 is in fact about the exclusion of General Khan in particular from the panel, from the interviewing panel. That's the impression this paragraph creates, because you cover it by mentioning that there were other 6 major generals that could have been chosen within crime intelligence, but curiously, it's General Khan that you mentioned. And what we know about him is he was in the previous panel, of the previous panel that did not succeed in filling this post. We know he was there.
Yes.
Now he's not in, and you take issue and you give him as an example, and it gives the impression that, in fact, the complaint in 12.5 is about him.
Now, this detail about Khan becomes key to understanding why the conclusion of Pariachi in his investigation of fraud and corruption does not match the material in his docket. As the Commission looked closely at the contents, it became clear that the requirements of a Section 27 referral were not met and that a case was allegedly being manufactured to meet these fraud and corruption charges.
It's a serious problem, Kelly. It is. You had no facts whatsoever. You made it up. You made it up to include it in this charge. And that's deeply problematic. In fact, it speaks to, until it's explained properly and satisfactorily why you included her on this charge, it speaks to an abuse of your power and authority to victimize an innocent person, at least on this charge, when you have no facts about it. You can comment if you want to.
Thank you, Commissioner. I note you say I included it on the charge sheet. I'm at pains at that. It's my affidavit, my investigation, my affidavit is given. I don't draft the charge sheets and say who must be charged for, who must be charged, what charge is there. I don't. That is at the prosecutor's door. They make that determination.
More questions would emerge in Pariachi's investigation, which he continued to note. A posture that did not sit well with evidence leader, Advocate Matlala, SC.
I do not, with respect, accept your explanation, Colonel. You caused for somebody to be arrested. Somebody who, on your own facts, was not complicit in the crime that you describe in the charge sheet. But because of your affidavit and the way the charge sheet is drafted, you caused for her arrest. That's irresponsible in the extreme. That's abuse of power. And it is not enough for you to say noted. No, Colonel, I don't accept that. I worry for the rest of the citizenry. Must I? I don't accept your answer.
The question then becomes, was this a legitimate pursuit of justice, or was this allegedly another layer of an alleged shield being afforded to Khan, who has in previous evidence shown that he is not shy to activate a quote-unquote counter within intelligence? While the Commission still has to get to this answer, this is what the Presidency had to say about the latest developments in light of the fact that the IDAC head is appointed by the President and can only be removed through a process initiated by the President.
Indeed, the developments that are transpiring at IDAC are a concern to the President, and the President is keeping an eye on those developments. At this stage, we've seen a lot of speculation around the head of IDAC potentially resigning and so on. Our view in that regard is that we're monitoring developments, and should the President reach a point where he activates some form of due process in response to the issues that are transpiring at IDAC, we will communicate that at an appropriate time.
All right, after the break, we unpack these developments with NPA spokesperson Kaiser Khanyago and specialist investigator Mike Borges. Do stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Now, as promised, NPA spokesperson Kaiser Khanyago and specialist investigator Mike Borges join us to unpack the latest developments regarding IDAC and seemingly what appears to be an alleged battle for crime intelligence in this regard. I think, Kaiser, we can start with you because everybody is wondering that as this lens of scrutiny on IDAC continues to grow, does the NDPP advocate Andy Mutibi hold the view that Advocate Johnson should step aside amid a probe into these allegations? And if so, has he communicated this view to the President?
Thank you very much. Obviously, by now everybody understands that there was a meeting that was held by the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development together with the NDPP himself, and they were joined by the head of the IDAC, which is Advocate Johnson. Therefore, in this meeting, there were things that were agreed to, but unfortunately, like I indicated, I can't then indicate it as a view of the NDPP or a view of the minister, because those things that were agreed on have to be tested or maybe taken to the next level of engagement before they can be communicated. Therefore, it will be unfair on our part to then start speaking about all of those things now of what was decided on Friday afternoon until the next level of the engagements happen, and that I hope will be very soon.
And Kaiser, when the statement says that no individual is bigger than the unit, that is IDAC, what then must the public make of such a sentiment in the statement that was released over the weekend with respect to these meetings and the growing calls for some form of an action to be taken against Advocate Johnson in light of the current allegations?
Yeah, obviously, we are talking about the way institutions have to be supported and strengthened. And we are saying we cannot allow, as government, any institution to be destroyed by one individual. And you would have heard even today when the judge, Raulinga, was speaking there, he mentioned the same thing, where he's basically saying no individual will be allowed to destroy any institution. And that is a general statement, and that will include a person like myself. I cannot be allowed to destroy IDAC on my own, nor is the NDPP. Therefore, it is important that we as the public need to support the institutions. People will come and go, but the institutions will remain.
All right, I want to quickly shift gears and bring in Mike into this conversation, because it seems that the evidence that caught the attention of the public was the case of Brigadier Dineo Mukwele. And seemingly, it appears that Major General Faraz Khan is someone that was mentioned that should have sat on the panel. Already that is being seen as something that goes far beyond IDAC's mandate and business, but it also speaks to that kind of internal battle within crime intelligence to have control of that particular unit. What do you make of this discovery, Mike, keeping in mind that Johnson herself was placed in allegations of improper conduct with Khan in the past, and now that could be possibly linked to the conduct that we're currently seeing at IDAC right now?
Well, first of all, I speak for the public when I say they are confused, and this is a huge problem. And it needs to be explained in a way that the public can understand it. Because what has happened is the public is absolutely in full trust with the Commission, as well as the authorities presently affecting the investigations, the prosecutions, and the arrests. And this can now all fall apart. Because from the public's point of view, and us as other specialist investigators, experts, that is standing on the periphery, this is what we deduct. And unless you quit your job and 24/7 sit in front of a TV and follow the hearings, the public will be in a situation where there will be assumptions, and that's going to be a huge problem. So in our view and from the public's view, it is a huge concern. But what I want to say, and I hope the nation is listening, is that there can only be complete, total, truthful answers after everything has been done and dusted by the Commission. We must understand that the Commission actually, in my opinion, not the President, it's not the President that must decide. There must be a vote amongst all the investigators and the Commission sitting and then saying, listen, there was an abuse of power. There was some mistakes made. Was it intentional? Was there corruption? There must be, if there's an intentional situation, a lifestyle audit must be checked for corruption. And there must be facts. But it cannot be a he says and she says. But mistakes will be made and has been made. But you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. So this whole commission is extremely important in the eyes of the public, and they must make the call whether there must be a change in IDAC or not. And then the President, which has appointed IDAC, can then just confirm. Because remember, the president also at the stage has to come and explain why has all this happened under his watch? Why is our country in such a state? And we must not forget the $580,000. So he is not beyond reproach, but the commission is presently. In my opinion, they must make the call.
Just very quickly, Mike, the investigative methods of IDAC have also been placed under scrutiny. The approach that Pariachi followed, in your experience as an investigator, was that the appropriate method in investigating a matter of this nature? It appears, allegedly, or at least that's what the evidence suggests, that there may have been a conclusion that they were trying to arrive to, and it wasn't based off of what they were finding initially in their investigation.
In my opinion, so far, and this is speculation, and remember, I only deal with facts, there could have been mistakes made. I don't think it is intentional. I don't think there's corruption. But at the end of the day, I myself, as a specialist investigator with my team, which they have, must do the investigation. And I've got full trust in the commission that once everybody is in front of them, they'll get to the bottom of this. But the possibility of mistakes that has been made, especially when affidavits hasn't been checked thoroughly. You know, if an affidavit goes through a group of authorities, everybody must check and recheck. We do the same, and then only it is presented. And I think there could be administrative mistakes.
And lastly, very quickly, Kaiser, we have run out of time, but we do know that the warrants of arrest were put on under review, rather. But what then happens to the IDAC cases that are being placed before the spotlight at the Madlanga Commission? Are those going to be subjected to reviews themselves as well?
Yes, we have announced on the 10th of July through the NDPP himself that all the matters that relate to crime intelligence that are investigated by IDAC are now going to be reviewed. Not only reviewed, but be reviewed by external people who are going to then look at it in an independent eye. And then because of that review, all the warrants of arrest that were there are going to be stayed. We are using the word state deliberately because warrants of arrest can only be cancelled by a person who approved them, be it the magistrate or somebody equivalent. Therefore, they will be stayed until the matter of the review is done. Therefore, from now going forward, all the matters, including the one you are referring to, will be under review.
All right, thank you very much. That is Kaiser Kganyago, the NPA national spokesperson. Then, of course, specialist investigator Mike Bolhuis, reflecting on the IDAC controversy that has been placed before the Madlanga Commission. And we expect that Advocate Andrea Johnson will finish off that testimony this week and give an explanation as to what could have possibly gone wrong with these cases and her previous conduct or alleged conduct as a senior public prosecutor. Now, while IDAC took center stage before the probe this week, it seems that members of the public were also highly interested in the postponement of Kat Matlala's testimony. Let's take a listen.
What I think about Kat Matlala's postponement is that I think it's a waste of money, and then what they need to do now is they just have to come to the conclusion of everything. And then once they come to the conclusion of everything, then they can save the money for the state. Yes, that's my view from my side.
I feel like it has to do with him being rich, because monetary is a base in South Africa. If you don't have money, your things will be like attended to very quickly because you don't have any security. But because he has money, it means that they're dancing to his music. So he can shift whatever that they've put in order because he has a higher lawyer, and maybe the government maybe is scared of people who have money and they have more privilege and more freedom, and they don't take accountability as well. You know, rights go with responsibilities. With them, it's only rights. There's no responsibility.
Okay, forget Matlala ke Philippine la yena no sonzo ara tsono di evidence side sonzo di izwe no sonzo ket Matlala tswari every day ba postpone ra no ara ke Philippine ba botle ba metse ket Matlala ora tswariwe aba tjablo tso tle di fele ka bana Matlanga e a fele ke neng wantsa postpone ba ntsela batho ba yena no sonzo ba bantse hanyo go bantsa wa fitla o ntse postpone ke mo ke fella mo teng.
All right, that brings us to the end of this week's wrap. All eyes are on the commission as Advocate Johnson is set to take the stand on Tuesday amid growing calls for action to be taken by the president. Meanwhile, Witness M is set to take the stand tomorrow behind closed doors, and Suleiman Carrim will close off the week with his postponement bid, which he wants to do behind closed doors. Thank you to our SABC3 viewers for joining us yet again. Let's meet again next week, Sunday at 4 p.m. as we continue to connect the dots.